Hello, welcome to the channel. My name is JonHut and today we are going to have a look how to add movement to your track. We are going to use different techniques to achieve the result that we want. So if you start to apply these techniques to your own production, I can guarantee you that they are going to have a massive improvement. With that said, let's go right into the computer. Okay, so here we are on FL Studio. Now, before we start to see all of these techniques, I just want to do a test with you. So basically, I'm going to play the song with and without the movement, and I'm going to let you choose which one do you think have all of this process and which one doesn't have it. So basically, I'm going to do kind of a A-B test. So let's start with the first one. Okay, in my opinion, I think it's pretty obvious, but please let me know in the comments which one do you think have the movement and which one doesn't. And now we are going to start to apply all of these techniques. So we are going to start with the clap and snare group. Okay, so here on the clap and snare group, the first technique that I apply is an LFO dynamic. This is basically a plugin that I create using Patcher, and what it does, it adds randomness to the attack, gain, or sustain. In this case, I'm only applying randomness to the sustain, so every time that the clap and snare hit, it have a different sustain. And for the second technique, I use a Patcher. So basically, I add a reverb to the clap, followed by a flanger, tremolator, and EQ. Let's have a look to the shape of the tremolator. And this is basically what tremolator is doing to the reverb of the clap and snare. So let's have a listen before and after this process. Next one on the percussion group, where I'm adding a delay using Echo Boy to improve the rhythm of the percussion. So let's have a listen before and after this process. Okay, the next one is the cymbals group. So let's start with the hi-hat close one. The first thing that I did, I add a pitch and a pre controller to add randomness to the pitch. The second thing that I add is an LFO dynamic to add randomness to the attack, gain, and sustain. Okay, now let's have a listen to the hi-hat close one and let's add one by one these plugins. Next one, hi-hat close 2, where I'm adding a shaper box 2 as a sidechain. And next, tape mellow-fi, which I'm adding drive, changing a little bit the tone. And I'm also adding a whir, flutter, and whoa. So let's have a listen before and after this process. Next one, hi-hat close 3, where I'm adding a fruity balance and peak controller to add randomness to the pan. And I'm also using a tape mellow-fi to add whir, flutter, and whoa. So let's have a listen before and after this process. And last on the cymbals group is a hi-hat loop. So I'm adding a shaper box to manipulate the pan and a flanger BL20. So let's have a listen before and after this process. Next, let's have a look into the bass group. So here on my bass, I'm adding movement by using the LFO2 with a triangle wave controlling the filter. So let's have a listen before and after this process. Next one, on the chords group, I'm applying few techniques on the pad. So basically I add a shaper box 3 to manipulate the pan, but only on 25%. So it's a pretty subtle effect. And I also add a fruity peak controller to control the LFO2 depth of the instrument. So let's have a look what this fruity peak controlling is doing. Okay, here I have the instrument and the peak controller. So when I activate the peak controller, have a look into the deep modulation of the LFO2. And last, I add into the chords group a tape Melofy where I'm adding quite a lot drive, changing the tone, and also adding a whir, flutter, whoa, and mechanics noise. So let's have a listen before and after this process. Next one, on the pluck group, here on the pluck number 4, I'm adding a delay eternity. And the reason why I'm using this delay is because of the beat crusher effect that have built on it, which is really good. Next one, on the plucks group, as you can see, I add quite a lot of things. So let's go one by one. The first one on shaper box 3, which I'm using patcher, I add 2 different shaper box. Basically what they are doing is adding a little bit of attack to the pluck by using different noises and distortion. So let's have a look to the first one. It's set on 16 notes and adding a little bit of noise. Same technique for the drive and also adding a little bit of side chain. And the next shaper box is only adding a little bit of noise, also set to 16 notes. Next one, I add a tremolator, same technique as before, I use a patcher. So let's have a look what is doing each tremolator. The first one is set to accent the 16 notes and the depth is on 50%. And the second tremolator, it have a specific rhythm. Now you might think that this is a random rhythm, but it's following the rhythm of the percussion. And the depth is set on 40%. Next one, I add a delay using Echo Boy. And last, shaper box 3 for side chain. And last, I create an automation which control the depth of the filter envelope. So let's have a listen before and after all of this process. And the last is going to be the lead and synth group. So here on the lead, first thing that I add is Echo Boy as a delay. Next, tape Melofy, which I'm adding a little bit of whir, flutter, and whoa. And last, I add a panman to randomize the pan. And here on the instrument, if I click to the advanced tab, you can see that I add 4 different modulation. The third one is controlling the filter, and the rest of them is controlling the amount and the length of the shapes. And last, on the synth, I'm controlling the filter with an LFO1, and I'm also modulating the frequency of the BCO2 also with the LFO1. So let's have a listen before and after all of this process. Okay, so now one more time, I'm gonna play same order as before, the whole song with and without all of this process. I'm gonna let you choose which one do you think have the movement and also which one do you like the most. Okay, that's all for me. Hope you like and learned something from this video. If you have any question, please leave a comment below. Thank you very much for watching. My name is JonHut.